They smile in your light, but disappear in your darkness. You must learn, no one is your friend if your silence offends them. Keep your back straight, your soul unbent. Be kind, but wary. Be open, yet guarded. Trust your spirit more than their words. That is your truest salvation. There will be days when no one calls, when the room is quiet, and the world seems to have forgotten your name. In those moments, self-reliance rises not just as a choice, but as a necessity. It is the root from which dignity grows. A person who learns to rely on themselves walks through storms without needing someone else to hold the umbrella. This is not because others are unkind, but because the soul knows its path is not always meant to be shared. Relying on yourself is not loneliness. It is power dressed in patience. Many grow up waiting for a helping hand, a rescuer, a savior. But the ones who truly rise are the ones who learn to reach for their own light. They become their own comfort, their own strength, and their own protector. This world will tell you to depend on systems, people, promises, but all these things have cracks. And when they break, they leave you in pieces unless you've learned how to stand alone. To rely on yourself means you begin each day with a quiet understanding that your peace, your stability, your hope all belong to you. No one else can carry your healing. No one else can make the choices that shape your tomorrow. The power of self-reliance is not in shouting your independence. It is in moving with quiet confidence, knowing that even if the phone never rings, you are still whole. Even if the applause never comes, your worth is undiminished. You cannot give to others what you have not given to yourself. A strong back, a gentle spirit, a wise mind. These come from meeting your own needs first, from sitting with your sadness and walking it toward the light, from feeding your mind when others offer noise, from honoring your time even when others waste it. To rely on yourself is to say, I matter, and I am capable of holding myself up. Some will call it selfishness. Let them. The world has long confused sacrifice with virtue, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot build a future on borrowed strength. Self-reliance teaches you how to rebuild without resentment, to lose and still be found, to walk away and still remain whole. It is the art of knowing that even when the support system falls apart, you do not have to. There's something holy about standing on your own feet. It's not that you don't need others. It's that you no longer need their permission to live, to grow, to move forward. You are not waiting to be chosen, to be helped, to be seen. You have seen yourself, and that is enough. People will come and go, but your spirit is a constant companion. When you cultivate self-reliance, you give that spirit a home within your own chest. You trust your own voice. You follow your own rhythm. You build without applause. And that, in a world that depends on validation, is nothing short of revolutionary. So when the world turns its back, you turn inward. When no one shows up, you show up for yourself. You speak kindly to your own heart. You forgive yourself first. You honor your truth. And when your legs are tired and your soul is weary, you do not collapse. You rest, and then you rise again by your own strength, because you have learned that the most powerful hand you will ever hold is your own. True friendship is rare. Not because the world lacks people, but because it lacks hearts that can hold truth without envy, loyalty without limits, and love without condition. Many will laugh with you, few will cry with you. Many will come to the table when the feast is full, but only a rare few will stay when the table is bare. The world is full of connections, but very few roots. True friendship does not come dressed in convenience. It walks in when comfort walks out. People speak of friendship as if it's common, as if the word can be shared loosely without honoring what it truly means. But friendship, in its purest form, is sacred. It doesn't flinch at your flaws. It doesn't fade in your silence. It doesn't measure your worth by your success. Instead, it stands still with you in the dark and doesn't ask you to pretend. The rarest friendships are built not in moments of ease, but in trials, misunderstandings, and pain. That's when the real ones show themselves, not through grand gestures, but by staying. There are many who will love the version of you that benefits them. They'll call you friend when your name brings light to theirs, when your presence adds to their image. But let hardship touch your door, let loss visit your life, and watch the room grow quiet. True friendship doesn't disappear in discomfort. It leans in, it holds space. It asks, "What do you need?" and listens to the silence that follows. Because sometimes the best kind of friend isn't the one with answers, but the one who doesn't walk away when there are none. A rare friend is someone who sees through the mask, touches your wounds, and doesn't run from the mess. They don't need you to be strong all the time. They don't love you for your strength. They love you even when you're weak. In a world that teaches us to compete, to compare, to hide our pain behind pride, true friends make space for softness. They remind you that you are not too much, not too little, not too broken, just human, just worthy. And yet, these friendships are not loud. They're not always seen in group photos or celebrated in public posts. Sometimes they exist in quiet check-ins, in long silences shared without discomfort, in a single sentence that says, "I'm here," and means it. They don't need constant presence, but their loyalty doesn't waver with distance. Time can pass, but the bond remains. That kind of friendship is not built overnight. It is watered with trust, strengthened by honesty, and tested by time. People often mistake closeness for friendship, but proximity doesn't promise loyalty. Laughter doesn't guarantee depth. Some of the loneliest souls sit among crowds. Some of the most faithful friends stand at a distance. And some of the deepest connections are not loud. They're just true. You'll find that true friends don't need to be reminded of your value. They never ask you to be anyone but yourself. They don't walk away when you're difficult, and they don't celebrate when you fall. They hold you not because it's easy, but because it's right. So yes, true friendship is rare, but that's what makes it holy. That's what makes it a treasure, not a trend. In a life where so many speak with false tongues and shake hands with shallow hearts, finding even one soul who truly sees you, stays with you, and walks with you, that is a blessing beyond measure. Loneliness has a way of entering quietly. It doesn't knock or ask permission. It simply arrives, often when the world is too loud or too silent. It wraps itself around the soul, making even familiar rooms feel empty. But in that stillness, in that aching quiet, something begins to shift. Loneliness, for all its sorrow, carries a lesson. It teaches resilience, not the kind that roars, but the kind that endures. It shows you how to stand when no one is watching, how to breathe when no one reminds you to, how to continue when the road offers no companions. In loneliness, you begin to hear yourself clearly. The noise of others' expectations fades. The mask begins to crack, and beneath it, you meet someone you may have long forgotten, yourself. This meeting is not always gentle. It is often painful to see your own wounds unfiltered, to recognize the parts of you that ache to be loved, to be seen, to be understood. But in that honest gaze, you begin to find your own strength. You stop reaching outward for validation. You begin building inward, layer by layer, with truth. When no one claps for you, you learn to clap for yourself. When no one offers comfort, you learn to soothe your own heart. When the world seems to keep moving while you sit in stillness, you realize that your worth isn't tied to pace or presence. It simply is. Resilience is born in that sacred knowing. You don't crumble when others forget you. You don't shatter when the invitations stop. You become the foundation you once sought in others. Loneliness teaches you the difference between solitude and abandonment. At first, the silence feels like a punishment, but over time, you learn it is a space for growth. Flowers do not bloom beneath constant touch. They bloom in the stillness of soil, in the quiet patience of time. And so do you. What felt like isolation becomes incubation. You begin to trust your own thoughts. You explore your own dreams without the need for approval. You discover that your voice, however quiet, carries weight. This resilience that loneliness builds is not hardened or bitter. It is soft and grounded. It does not depend on applause. It does not demand presence. It is born from the understanding that you have survived what tried to break you, and not only survived, but evolved. You begin to walk differently, not because others follow, but because you no longer need them to. You are not above connection, but you are no longer defined by it. There is power in knowing that you can be alone and still be complete. That your value is not diminished by someone else's absence. That your joy, your peace, your healing, none of it is dependent on who stays or who goes. You become whole not because others fill your gaps, but because you have learned to hold your brokenness with compassion and build from it. Loneliness strips away illusions. It reveals the core, and what remains is something fierce, something unshakable, a spirit that does not crumble under silence, a heart that beats not for performance but for purpose. You begin to realize that being alone does not mean being unloved. It means you are preparing, you are strengthening, you are learning to carry your own light so that when the darkness returns, as it always does, you will not fear it. You will walk through it, lit from within. People often walk into your life carrying smiles, warm words, and promises dressed in sincerity. But over time, you begin to see the fine print behind their kindness, the silent agreements, the invisible strings. You start to notice that some people only stay as long as you are who they need you to be. They offer love with terms, support with expiration dates, presence with expectations. It may not be malicious, but it is conditional. It is love that depends on your compliance, not your truth. And when you no longer serve their needs or reflect their image, their affection grows distant, their loyalty weakens. The world often teaches us to conform, to please, to fit the mold others have shaped for us. When you step outside of that mold, when your truth becomes inconvenient, when your boundaries challenge their comfort, you may find that their warmth grows cold. People many times do not love you. They love the version of you that makes them feel good. And when that version changes, they withdraw, they criticize, they vanish. This is not your failure, it is a revelation. Some people are not aware of the conditions they attach. They believe they are being kind. Even when their love demands you shrink yourself to keep their approval. But real love doesn't require you to be less so someone else can feel more. It doesn't silence your truth to preserve peace. It doesn't punish you for growing, for changing, for becoming someone who no longer bends at every ask. Conditional people may say, "I'm here for you," but what they often mean is, "I'm here for the version of you that benefits me." This is where your awareness becomes sacred. You begin to discern between love that builds and love that binds, between companionship and control, between acceptance and manipulation. It's not about judging others harshly, but about seeing clearly. Some people enter your life for a season or a lesson, not for a lifetime. Their leaving is not your loss. It's a clearing. It makes space for the few rare souls who will love you without a checklist, who will stay even when your truth is inconvenient, who will not hold your flaws against you like a debt. Learning that people come with conditions can be painful. It shakes the foundation of many relationships. But it also teaches you a deeper loyalty to yourself. You stop begging for crumbs. You stop performing. You stop apologizing for needing more than presence. You want presence with depth, with understanding, with honesty. And when you begin to honor yourself in this way, you no longer fear the absence of those who cannot meet you there. You begin to see that unconditional love starts within, that you must be the one who holds space for your imperfections, your evolution, your whole self. From that place, you stop clinging to those who only see you through their lens. You learn to let them go with grace because holding on only delays your freedom. It's not your job to prove your worth to those who require conditions to stay. Your worth simply is. The truth is, not everyone is meant to stay. Some are only mirrors, showing you what you no longer need. Their conditions teach you clarity. Their departure teaches you strength. And as you release those who loved you with limits, you make room for those who will love you without them. Not because you are perfect, but because you are real. And in this life, being real is the most liberating thing you can be. Boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are the quiet declarations of self-respect. They are the sacred lines we draw to honor our peace, our energy, our emotional space. Boundaries do not say, I don't love you. They say, I love me, and I want to love you in a way that doesn't cost me myself. Too often we are taught that love is about sacrifice, about giving until there's nothing left. But real love includes limits. It includes honesty. It includes choosing truth over comfort. When you set a boundary, it is not rejection. It is clarity. It tells others how to treat you, not because you are fragile, but because you are whole. People who love you in truth will not be offended by your boundaries. They will be grateful. Because boundaries are how we teach people how to be in our lives without breaking us, without crossing into places that are not theirs to walk, without asking for more than we can give. Love that refuses boundaries is not love. It is entitlement. There comes a time when you realize that always saying yes is not kindness. It is erasure. It is pouring yourself out to fill others while you quietly run dry. And the world will gladly take everything you give if you do not pause and say, that's enough. Boundaries are that pause. They are the breath between giving and overgiving. They are the space where your spirit gets to stretch and feel safe. They are the gift you give to yourself and to others when you choose to love clearly, not endlessly. Setting boundaries is not easy, especially when you've been taught to equate love with compliance, when you've been praised for being agreeable, for never making waves, for always putting others first. But at some point, you begin to understand that love without boundaries breeds resentment. That silence is not peace. That constantly giving in is not compassion. It is fear, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough unless you give too much. But the moment you begin to set boundaries, you start reclaiming yourself. You start choosing your sanity over their comfort. You begin to protect the parts of you that were once too exposed, too available, too easily given away. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop explaining why no is a full sentence. You begin to love in a way that doesn't hurt you in the process. And yes, some people will fall away when you draw the line. Let them. Those who love you only when you have no limits are not loving you. They are using you. They are loving their version of you, the one who never says no, never pushes back, never asks for reciprocity. When you change that narrative, when you say, I deserve to be honored too, you will see who is truly there for you and who was simply there for access. Boundaries are not just about protection. They are about intention. They are a way of saying, this is where I end and you begin. This is how we can meet each other in the middle. Without boundaries, love becomes obligation. With boundaries, love becomes a choice, a mutual agreement, not a silent sacrifice. So you draw the line not in anger, but in grace, not to divide, but to connect in a healthier, clearer, kinder way. Because boundaries are not the absence of love, they are its most honest form. There is a quiet knowing that lives deep within you, beyond the noise, beyond the masks, beyond the expectations that others have tried to place on your shoulders. That knowing is your soul's worth. It doesn't scream for attention or demand to be proven. It simply exists, unchanging, unmoved by titles or applause. But for too long, many of us have been taught to measure ourselves through mirrors that don't belong to us. We've looked outward for validation, for permission to be who we already are inside. And in doing so, we have forgotten that the soul comes whole, not half, not broken, whole. To know your soul's worth is to understand that you are not here by accident. You are not a mistake. You are not too much or not enough. You are simply you, and that is sacred. Your worth was never meant to be tied to how much you do for others, how small you make yourself to fit in, how loud you speak to be heard. Worth is not earned. It is remembered. It is uncovered, like gold beneath the dirt, like light beneath years of shadow. When you begin to see it, truly see it, you no longer accept less than you deserve. You no longer beg for love, chase after attention, or shrink for approval. The world will try to sell you your own value, wrapped in roles, achievements, and status. But those things are temporary. Your soul's worth is eternal. It is not attached to productivity. It does not depend on being chosen by others. It is rooted in being chosen by you. When you stand firm in that knowing, you move differently. You speak with more clarity. You stop allowing people to play tug of war with your identity. You stop auditioning for spaces that were never meant for you. And you start creating your own table instead of begging for a seat at someone else's. Knowing your soul's worth means you stop tolerating anything that dishonors your spirit. You no longer stay in rooms where you are only half seen, half heard, half loved. You no longer trade your peace for temporary validation. You begin to understand that you are not here to perform. You are here to be. And being requires courage. It requires unlearning. It requires a return to that inner voice that always knew, even when the world tried to make you forget. Sometimes knowing your worth means walking away from people who can't love you without conditions, walking away from patterns that keep you small, walking away from anything that demands your silence as the price for belonging. Because your soul was never meant to be quieted, it was meant to shine, to take up space, to speak truth, to live in fullness, not fragments. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. The most powerful thing you can do is accept yourself without negotiation, to wake up in the morning and know that you are enough, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. That is what sets you free. That is what changes how you love, how you work, how you live. When you know your soul's worth, you attract alignment, not attachment. You attract respect, not convenience. You walk in rooms like you belong because you do, without explanation. And even when the world tries to forget your value, you will not, because it is rooted too deep. It is written in your bones, in your breath, in your being. And once you truly know your soul's worth, you will never again settle for anything less than what honors it. The journey through each truth, self-reliance, the rarity of true friendship, the resilience born from loneliness, the conditions people carry, the love within boundaries, and the sacredness of knowing your soul's worth is not about separation from the world, but a return to yourself. These lessons are not bitterness, they are clarity. They are not walls, they are mirrors. They teach you not only how to protect your spirit, but how to live fully within it. Because when you stop seeking approval, chasing false friendships, overgiving, or questioning your own value, you begin to walk in peace. You begin to walk in power. The world may not always understand you, but you will understand yourself. And that is the foundation of a life rooted in truth. You are not here to be small, to be used, to be tolerated. You are here to be whole. And when you finally choose yourself completely and unapologetically, you become unshakable.